You know Toyota, right? One of the largest car brands in the world. Well, what if I told you that an entire brand you probably didn't even know about? What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. I made a video like this not that long ago, just talking about stuff related to cars, and it did really well, so I'm going to try it again. And I really like this video. I personally find it interesting, so let's get into the video. If you haven't guessed by now, that brand is Scion. In 2003, Toyota launched Scion, an attempt to bring young buyers to the Toyota brand. Now at the time, Toyota already had two brands, the main brand, Toyota, and their luxury brand, Lexus. And then when they launched Scion, they had a brand that made cheap, affordable, reliable, fun cars. I personally think that's probably the best trio. You have your Scion, your cheap, affordable, everything I just said, all of that, pretty much the perfect first car brand. I'll get into that in a different video. And then you have your Toyota, your in-between brand. Like, you can get a nice Toyota, or you can get like a basic, cheap, reliable, good on gas Toyota that is still cheap and it pretty much gets everything you need done in a car. And then you have Lexus, your luxury brand that competes with the big German brands like Audi, BMW, and Mercedes. Pretty much a Toyota with luxury features and more appealing to people that want a nicer car. So in 2003, Toyota launched the Scion brand to the public with its first two models, the XA and XB. And then in 2004, they added the TC to the lineup. Scion took a different approach to marketing and advertisement. Instead of doing the normal approach that most brands use, they advertise themselves at events targeted to the youth, like concerts, sports events, video games, and a bunch of other stuff like that, therefore bringing in a younger audience. Basically what they wanted to begin with. And I say they did pretty well at it. In 2007, the average age for a Toyota owner was 54 years old. However, the average age for a Scion owner was only 39 years old. And their best-selling year was 2006, with 173,000 plus vehicles sold in that year. But then in 2008, their sales dropped significantly due to the financial crisis. Another thing Scion was known for was customization. Besides all of that stuff that I mentioned before, a Scion was known to be customized. They had one trim that you can choose from. They just had one trim, and you can option, I think it was like 150 options onto a car. It pretty much just personalize it, make it your own. Pretty much what you do with a car that you buy anyway, just they're doing it for you. Honestly, that's pretty cool. Aside from customization, Scion vehicles also had something called a pure price sale. So the number that you see online or in ads or wherever you see it, the number that you see there is what you pay when you go to buy a car at a dealership. And that's pretty good because it eliminates the negotiation process and just, it's probably the most simple car buying process of the time. And everything about Scion was really just designed to be for the younger audience, like fun, reliable, cheap cars that you can literally buy for, I think the TC started at $16,000. That's not a lot of money. That's cheaper than the cheapest new car you could buy today. And that wasn't even the cheapest car they sold. Honestly, I think that's a win. But just like every car brand, it wasn't all good. Scion had their problems too. Starting in 2008, when the financial crisis happened, sales dropped tremendously from 150,000 units down to well below 100,000 units. And for a car company that's trying to sell cars, that isn't very good. And seeing how their sales dropped and just continued to drop every single year, they knew they had to make a change. The first thing they did was redesign the TC, leading to the second generation of TC. Then, after that, that didn't work. So they brought in the Scion IQ, a compact city car, but they still weren't done. They discontinued the XB and XD, which was the successor to the XA. But then later in 2012, they brought back the XB after saying they were going to discontinue it. And then in the same month, they collaborated with Subaru to drop the rear-wheel drive, two-door, front engine, four-cylinder Scion FRS. And although the FRS had good initial sales, the FRS and redesigned TC sales combined didn't even equal the sales of the TC in 2006. So, as you can tell, things were getting worse. And ultimately, the TC and FRS were also very similar, so that kind of affected sales as well. Toyota dealers started dropping the Scion brand and stopped selling Scion cars. And then, not to mention, IQ sales never really met expectations anyway. As I mentioned before, the main goal of Scion was to attract younger buyers to the Toyota brand. But that wasn't really working out, because they found when they did their research that younger buyers that bought Scions didn't end up sticking around to buy Toyota, Lexus, or even another Scion. And then for the 2015 model year, Toyota introduced the Scion IM under the Scion brand, and they decided to discontinue the IQ, XB, and XD for real this time. And then they also introduced the IA sedan, which was pretty much a Toyota Yaris. But things did not change, and they still had a huge problem on their hands. They couldn't sell cars. So in 2016, they decided to discontinue the Scion brand entirely and bring some models into the Toyota lineup and others just get discontinued. They claimed that they no longer needed a sub-brand for younger buyers. The FRS, IA, and IM were brought into the Toyota lineup for the 2017 model year as the Toyota 86, Toyota Yaris IA, and Toyota Corolla IM, respectively. And my personal favorite, tied with the FRS, the TC, was just discontinued. And the CHR never even made it to be a Scion, and they just introduced it as a Toyota. And lucky for Scion owners, this didn't really cause a big disruption to service or anything else, because Scion didn't have any separate dealerships. They were all sold, serviced at Toyota dealerships. Here is why I think Toyota should now bring Scion back for 2026 at least. The first reason is now new cars cost so much money now. I think the cheapest new car you can buy is like $20,000, which I guess for a new car on today's standards, that's not really a lot of money, but it could be cheaper if Toyota brings back Scion and can figure out a way to make a cheap new car like they did 20 years ago. And another thing is not just how cheap the cars are, but Scions would be Toyotas, therefore they will be reliable. They will be fun to drive, assuming they stick to what they were doing in the early 2000s. They will be good first cars. They will be reliable, cheap, fun, pretty much anything you could really want in a car. And especially if they make it so you can customize them like you could 15 to 20 years ago when they actually existed, I think it would do really well. And just imagine a car that was everything I've talked about before: cheap, reliable, fun to drive, and also up to date on technology features. Like, it has all the stuff, like a nice sound system, Apple CarPlay, a nice like radio, like all that stuff in a car that's everything I mentioned before. I think it would personally just do really, really well. So basically, to summarize this entire video, Toyota realized that they needed a brand to appeal to the young audience. And then 10 years later, they realized, oh shoot, young people were already buying our cars. We don't need Scion anymore. Bye. So that's going to be the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the bell for future videos like this. And I'll see you guys in the next video.